When my daughter, Chloe, told me to find somewhere else to die, calling me useless, I packed my bags, just like the obedient mother I'd always been. 3 days later, in a lawyer's office, I discovered my loving husband, Arthur, had played the longest game of chess in history. Chloe was about to learn that sometimes the pawn becomes the queen. If you're watching, subscribe and tell me where you're tuning in from. Let me share how I went from a seemingly helpless widow to the woman holding all the cards. This story has more twists than a pretzel. 2 months ago, I was Eliza Thompson, devoted wife of 43 years and mother to a spectacularly ungrateful daughter. When Arthur died of a heart attack at 71, I thought my world was over. Chloe swooped in like a designer-clad vulture, cooing about my grief. "Mom, you can't possibly manage this big house alone," she'd said, her voice dripping with fake concern. The stairs, the maintenance, all those memories. It's not healthy. I should have seen the calculation behind her words. Chloe was always Arthur's favorite, his little princess. When she married investment banker Liam and started having grandchildren, Arthur doted on them. I was just the woman who cooked, cleaned, and kept everything running smoothly. After the funeral, Chloe became increasingly insistent. She'd bring Liam over for dinners, cornering me with real estate pamphlets and retirement brochures. "Mom, these places are wonderful. People your age, activities, no responsibilities." What they meant was no inheritance to split, no inconvenient mother. The final blow came last Tuesday. I'd been living in their house for 6 weeks, sleeping in the guest room, unable to pack our bedroom. Chloe arrived unannounced with Liam and 2 large suitcases. "Mom, we've made a decision. Liam got a promotion. We need to move into town immediately. This house is perfect for us." I stared, not comprehending. "Move in, but this is my home." Chloe's mask slipped. "Actually, Mom, according to Dad's will, I inherited everything. The house, investments, all of it. I've been letting you stay out of kindness, but it's time for you to find your own place." The words hit me physically. "Chloe, surely there's a mistake." "No mistake. Dad knew I'd take better care of his legacy. You never understood money. You were just the wife. Just the wife." 43 years reduced to those 3 words. Then the killing blow, find somewhere else to die. "You're useless now." I packed 43 years of marriage into 2 suitcases and a small box of photos. Chloe watched, checking her watch. "There's a nice senior complex on Maple Street," she offered, like recommending a restaurant. "Very affordable. I'm sure they have openings." Affordable. My daughter was inheriting $33 million, suggesting I check into a welfare facility. Liam loaded my suitcases into their BMW like garbage. "Eliza, you'll love your independence again," he said, avoiding my eyes. "No more worrying about house maintenance or property taxes. No more home," he meant. As we drove away, I watched my house disappear. I'd spent for decades making it a home. Now I was being driven to a budget motel. The Sunset Inn was exactly what $49 a night bought. Thin walls, thinner towels, and a carpet that had seen better decades. Chloe handed me $200 cash, like tipping a maid. "This should cover you for a few days. Liam will transfer money once we sort through Dad's paperwork, some money from my own inheritance." After they left, I sat on the sagging mattress, trying to process it. In 3 hours, I'd gone from grieving widow to homeless senior. The woman I'd raised and loved had discarded me. But something nagged at me. Arthur was meticulous about his affairs. He'd shown me his will years ago, explaining his wishes. I was certain it hadn't said this. Arthur wasn't cruel. The man who'd held my hand through my mother's death wouldn't have left me destitute. The next morning, I used the motel's Wi-Fi to find Arthur's attorney. Mr. Caldwell, his office was downtown, a 20-minute bus ride. Mr. Caldwell, a distinguished man in his 70s with kind eyes, looked surprised. "Eliza, my dear, I was wondering when you'd come in." I tried calling your house, but Chloe said you were traveling. Mr. Caldwell, I need to ask about Arthur's will. He looked puzzled. Of course. Didn't Chloe provide your copy? I gave her the original and several copies after the reading. My stomach dropped. A reading? Eliza, you were supposed to be there. Chloe said you were too distraught, that she'd handle everything and ensure you received your inheritance. The blood drained from my face. Mr. Caldwell, I was never told about any reading. Chloe told me she inherited everything. Mr. Caldwell's expression shifted to alarm. He reached for a thick file. Eliza, that's impossible. Your husband's will is very specific about your inheritance. He pulled out a document. I recognized Arthur's signature. As Mr. Caldwell read, I realized Chloe had lied about everything. I, Arthur James Thompson, being of sound mind and body, do hereby bequeath to my beloved wife Eliza and Thompson the following, our primary residence at 847 Oakwood Drive, including all furnishings and personal effects. Additionally, I leave her 70% of all financial assets, investments, and accounts, totaling approximately $23 million. My head spun. $23 million. The house, 70% of everything. Mr. Caldwell continued, his voice serious. To my daughter, Chloe Thompson Hayes, I leave $10 million to be held in trust, with distributions beginning on her 45th birthday. Contingent upon her treatment of her mother following my death, contingent upon her treatment of me. Arthur had known. He'd known exactly what Chloe would try. Mr. Caldwell, I whispered, Chloe told me I inherited nothing. She moved into my house. She gave me $200 and suggested a senior facility. The lawyer's face flushed with anger. Eliza, what Chloe has done is elder abuse and fraud. She's committed multiple felonies, but she had legal documents. Forged most likely, or an earlier draft. Your husband updated his will 6 months before his death, specifically because he was concerned about Chloe's attitude toward money and her entitlement. The room spun. All those times Chloe had dismissed me, talked over me, rolled her eyes. Arthur had been watching, evaluating. There's more, Eliza. The trust provision for Chloe states that if she fails to treat you with respect and dignity after my death, the entire $10 million reverts to you instead. I stared in shock. Are you saying? I'm saying your daughter just cost herself $10 million. Her inheritance is now yours. You're not inheriting $23 million. Eliza, you're inheriting $33 million, plus the house and all personal property. The irony was so perfect, it was almost funny. Chloe, so eager to claim her inheritance, had triggered the exact clause designed to protect me from her greed. What do I do now? I asked, my voice barely steady. Mr. Caldwell smiled, and for the first time since Arthur's death, I felt genuine warmth. Now, my dear, we call the police about the fraud. And then we call Chloe and inform her that she's about to receive the shock of her life. Can she fight this? With what money? She's about to discover that every account she thought she controlled actually belongs to you. Every investment, every bank account, every asset except your house is frozen pending investigation of her fraudulent activities. I thought about Chloe and my house. Planning renovations, shopping with money she thought was hers. Liam calculating his portfolio. They had no idea that in 6 hours, their world would implode. Caldwell's office became command central for what he cheerfully called Operation Justice. He contacted the police, banks, and a private investigator while I sat. Processing. The forged documents are quite sophisticated, Detective Miller explained. This wasn't spur of the moment. Someone planned this carefully. You think Chloe had help? I asked. Almost certainly. Creating convincing forgeries requires specific knowledge. We'll investigate if Liam or his financial network was involved. Within 2 hours, every account was frozen. Chloe's credit cards, linked to her inheritance, were declined. The house utilities transferred to her name were suspended. My phone rang at 3:47 p.m. Chloe, Mom, where are you? There's a mix-up with the bank accounts. They're saying Daddy's assets are frozen. Hello, Chloe, I'm sitting in Mr. Caldwell's office. You remember him? Daddy's attorney, the one who read the real will to an empty room while you told him I was traveling. Silence. Then, Mom, I don't know what you think you discovered, but I discovered you're a liar and a thief. Sweetheart, I also discovered your father was much smarter than either of us realized. You don't understand. I was protecting you from managing all that money. You've never dealt with investments. Oh, I understand perfectly. You forged legal documents, committed fraud, and threw your 67-year-old mother out of her own house because you thought I was too stupid to notice. Her voice sharpened, desperate. Mom, you're confused. The grief is overwhelming. Someone is taking advantage of your emotional state, the audacity. Even caught red-handed, she tried to manipulate me. Chloe, dear, let me clarify. Not only did you never inherit anything, but your actual inheritance. The $10 million your father left you is now mine, thanks to a lovely clause he included about treating me with dignity and respect. That's impossible. Detective Miller is sitting right here if you'd like to discuss the impossibility of fraud charges with her. The phone went quiet. I could almost hear her mind racing. Mom, please, can we meet and talk reasonably? I'm sure we can work something out. Oh, we'll definitely be meeting soon. At the courthouse when you're arraigned, you wouldn't dare press charges against your own daughter. Something cold and final crystallized in my chest. Watch me, I hung up and looked at Mr. Caldwell, who was beaming. How long before she's arrested? Detective Miller has enough evidence for a warrant. They'll pick her up this evening. And Liam, his financial records are being subpoenaed. If he participated, he'll face charges too. My phone buzzed. A text from Chloe, Mom, please don't do this. Think about the grandchildren. I showed it to Detective Miller, who smiled grimly. Emotional manipulation. Classic. I typed back, I am thinking about them. They deserve to see what happens when you steal from family. 20 minutes later, Liam called. Eliza, surely we can resolve this privately. Chloe made some poor decisions, but involving the police seems excessive. Liam, did you help her forge those documents? That's not Eliza. You have to understand the pressure Chloe was under. She was worried about your mental state, your ability to handle large sums of money. So that's a yes. It wasn't malicious. She genuinely believed she was protecting you by throwing me out of my house and telling me to find somewhere to die. Liam was quiet. Liam, here's what's going to happen. You're both going to be arrested. You're both going to face federal fraud charges. And I'm going to be sitting in my house watching it all unfold. Eliza, please be reasonable. I was reasonable for 43 years. It didn't work out well for me. The police arrested Chloe at 8:30 p.m. at a fancy restaurant, celebrating her inheritance with Liam and another couple. She screamed about false arrest and demanded her lawyer, Liam's golf buddy with no criminal law experience. Liam was arrested at his office the next morning. A forensic accountant traced the forged documents to a printing company Liam's firm used for fraudulent investment prospectuses. My son-in-law had quite the criminal resume. I spent my first night back in my house in 43 years, sleeping in the master bedroom. Chloe had already moved her belongings in, replacing Arthur's careful organization with her chaos of designer clothes and cosmetics. I packed everything into garbage bags and left them on the front porch. Let her collect them when she makes bail. The house felt different now, not because Arthur was gone, but because I was finally seeing it as mine. For decades, I'd maintained it as Arthur's sanctuary. Now, with clear eyes, I realized how little of me was reflected here. That was about to change. Caldwell called around noon. Chloe's bail is $50,000. Since her accounts are frozen, she'll need someone else to cover it. What about Liam? $200,000. Apparently, the judge wasn't impressed with his history of financial crimes. Who knew your son-in-law had been under investigation for securities fraud? I certainly hadn't. I'd been excluded from most financial discussions. Chloe and Liam always spoke to me like a child about money. They were about to learn how much I actually understood. Mr. Caldwell, I want to make some changes to the house. Chloe had contractors lined up. I'd like to proceed with some plans, but with my own vision. Excellent idea. It's your home now, Eliza. Do whatever makes you happy. What made me happy was undoing every assumption Chloe had made. She planned to gut the kitchen, replace floors, and convert Arthur's study into a wine cellar. I was going to turn the study into an art studio and the wine cellar plans into a library. My phone rang. Unknown number. Mrs. Thompson, this is Sarah Jones from Channel 7 News. We understand you're the victim of a significant elder fraud case involving your daughter. Would you be willing to share your story? Word was getting out. Miss Jones, I appreciate your interest, but I'm not ready to make public statements. I understand this must be difficult. But your story could help other seniors recognize warning signs of family financial abuse. She had a point. If I told my story, would I have control? Absolutely. We could arrange a sit-down interview where you'd have approval over the final edit. I thought about Chloe, probably in jail. Still believing this was a misunderstanding she could charm her way out of. Miss Jones, let me get back to you. I might have quite a story to tell. After hanging up, I poured myself a glass of the expensive wine Liam had sent for Christmas. Wine I was now drinking in my own house, purchased with my own money, contemplating publicly humiliating my daughter on television. Life had taken an interesting turn. The doorbell rang at 7 o'clock a.m. sharp. Chloe stood on my porch, wearing yesterday's clothes, looking 5 years older. She'd made bail. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. Mom, please. We need to talk. We talked yesterday. You told me to find somewhere to die. I found somewhere to live instead. Chloe's eyes were red-rimmed, her composure shattered. I made mistakes. Terrible mistakes. But I'm still your daughter, are you? Daughters don't typically forge legal documents to steal their mother's inheritances. I wasn't stealing. She struggled for words that weren't criminal. You were what, Chloe? I was trying to protect you from making poor financial decisions. You've never managed large amounts of money. Even now, after being arrested, she couldn't admit the truth. In her mind, she was a victim. Chloe, let me share something your father told me 6 months before he died. He was worried about your sense of entitlement, your attitude toward money, and how you treated people you considered beneath you. Her face went pale. Daddy never said that. He said you reminded him of his sister, Doris, beautiful, charming, and completely incapable of thinking about anyone but yourself. He told me he was changing the will specifically because he was afraid of what you'd do to me if you had control. That's a lie. I pulled out my phone and showed her a voice recording. Actually, it's not. Your father recorded a video message explaining his decision, to be played if you ever contested the will or treated me poorly after his death. Chloe stared at the phone like a poisonous snake. He knew, sweetheart. He knew exactly who you were underneath all that charm. The only thing he didn't predict was how far you'd actually go. Play it, she whispered. I touched the screen and Arthur's voice filled the morning air. Clear, measured, and devastating. If you're hearing this, Chloe, it means my fears about your character were justified. I hoped I was wrong. But if Eliza is playing this recording, it means you've proven me right in the worst possible way. Chloe sank onto the porch steps as Arthur's voice continued. I spent 43 years watching your mother sacrifice her dreams, her ambitions, her independence to take care of our family. She worked part-time jobs to help pay for your college while I built my business. She postponed her education, gave up career opportunities, and poured herself into being the wife and mother she thought we needed. The recording continued for 3 more minutes, each word a scalpel cutting through Chloe's justifications. By the time you hear this, you'll have discovered that treating your mother poorly has cost you everything. I hope it was worth it. When it ended, Chloe was crying. Ugly, broken sobs. He hated me, she whispered. No, Chloe, he loved you enough to hope you'd prove him wrong. You chose to prove him right instead. She looked up, mascara streaking her cheeks. What happens now? Now you face the consequences of your choices. The fraud charges, the investigation, the public humiliation when this story hits the news. Channel 7 wants to interview me about elder financial abuse. I'm thinking of saying yes. Chloe's face crumpled. Mom, please think about what this will do to the grandchildren, to Liam's career, to our whole family. I am thinking about it. I'm thinking about how you didn't consider any of those things when you decided to commit multiple felonies. She stood slowly, looking older and more defeated. I know you won't believe this, but I never meant for it to go this far. I wanted the money. I wanted the security, the status. I wanted to never have to worry about anything again. For the first time, Chloe was telling the truth. I believe you, sweetheart, but wanting something doesn't justify destroying people to get it. She nodded, tears still flowing. What can I do to fix this? You can start by admitting what you did was wrong. Not misguided, not protective, not complicated wrong. It was wrong. It was completely, unforgivably wrong. And then you can face whatever consequences come next with some dignity, instead of trying to manipulate your way out of them. Chloe looked at me, seeing not the pushover mother, but the woman who had completely outmaneuvered her. I deserved this, didn't I? Yes, Chloe, you absolutely did. 3 days after Chloe's porch confession, Liam's mother showed up, Mrs. Hayes, perfectly coiffed, dripping with jewelry, radiating inherited entitlement. Eliza, we need to discuss this situation rationally. I invited her in. Mrs. Hayes settled in my living room. Liam made some poor choices, obviously, but prosecuting him seems rather vindictive, don't you think? Vindictive. Your son helped steal my inheritance and threw me out of my own house. Liam was following Chloe's lead. He didn't understand the full situation. She was trying to blame my daughter for her son's crimes. Mrs. Hayes, Liam created forged legal documents. That's not following someone's lead. That's conspiracy to commit fraud. Liam's lawyer believes we can reach a settlement that benefits everyone. You get your house back. Chloe faces appropriate consequences. And Liam avoids the publicity of a trial. Appropriate consequences. What kind of settlement? Mrs. Hayes smiled. Liam's family is prepared to compensate you for your inconvenience. Let's say $1 million in exchange for dropping the charges against Liam. $1 million to forgive the man who helped steal $33 million. Mrs. Hayes, your son participated in a scheme that cost me everything I owned. You think $1 million covers that? Eliza, be realistic. Liam has a career, children, a reputation to maintain. Sending him to prison serves no one. It serves justice. Mrs. Hayes' facade cracked. Justice. You're destroying multiple families over money you'd never have known how to manage anyway. There it was. The same condescending attitude. Mrs. Hayes, I think we're done here. Eliza, please reconsider. $5 million, final offer. $5 million to let Liam walk free. My answer is no. Mrs. Hayes stood, composure restored. Very well. But you should know that Liam's legal team has found some interesting information about your husband's business practices. It would be unfortunate if that became public during the trial. The threat was clear. What kind of information? The kind that might make you reconsider who the real criminal in this situation was, after she left. I called Mr. Caldwell. Eliza, whatever they think they found. It doesn't change the facts of Chloe and Liam's crimes, but could it affect the case? Potentially. If they can muddy the waters enough, create doubt about Arthur's character, it might influence a jury. I thought about Arthur, our marriage, the secrets buried in 43 years. Mr. Caldwell, I want to know everything about Arthur's business. Every deal, every partnership, every potential irregularity. Eliza, are you sure? Sometimes the past is better left alone. The Hayes family is threatening to drag Arthur's memory through the mud. I'd rather.